The content on this channel is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing we say, Evan, Joseph, or even Eric, we are not giving you financial advice. No tax, legal, accounting, or investment advice of any other kind. Anything you invest in is at your own risk. Do your own research and consult with professionals. Obviously, Evan and I are not professionals. Here we go. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week on the Bytes live stream. Today, it is our absolute pleasure to have Eric Chen, the CEO and co-founder of Injective Labs. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited because there's a lot been going on with Injective. I know that the charts have been looking really good with Injective, and there's been a lot of bullish sentiment about what's going on within the Injective ecosystem. And one of the biggest news that we've heard about Injective recently has been the major ecosystem fund that has been launched for your guys' ecosystem, and it's really massive. It's $150 million with major backers coming in from Jump, Kraken, Pantera, and a few other major players in the industry. So I'm just excited to have you onto the show. There's a very bright future ahead of Injective and major developments upcoming. So just love to hear your thoughts on how you're feeling about the ecosystem fund and kind of just priorities going in with Injective right now, having that major backing.
Yeah, I think the ecosystem venture consortium is certainly extremely exciting, but I think what's really more exciting is all the inflow and developers kind of like building on top of Injective and looking for support, because I think the venture group is really built around a way to address, all the needs by all these projects, all these talented builders, and all these DeFi developers working on extremely innovative and really cool primitives on top of Injective. And I think now is the best time ever to basically signal and form this consortium to be able to support them in the best way possible.
Eric, I'm curious. I actually was at Cosmoverse back in September, and I met with some people working the booth at Injective there. So kudos to your team there. They did a really good job of kind of laying out the whole ecosystem, and I was super impressed with all of sort of the primitives that have already been built on top of Injective, things like Helix and others that kind of provide that core foundation of what you look for in DeFi protocols. For the venture fund that you guys recently raised, what kind of things specifically are you looking for? Like if I'm a developer out there, or I've got an idea or a DeFi protocol maybe that's on another chain, what would be something that Injective is looking for in terms of like enticing people to move over?
Yeah, if you're building anything related to DeFi, building on top of Cosmos, or building on top of Injective directly, focusing on infrastructure layer or anything related to Injective and the mission that Injective believes in, the ecosystem fund is the perfect place for you to start. All you need to do is go on a website and just apply.
What kind of projects are you guys right now seeing being developed, and what kind of things do you guys want to prioritize as the ecosystem rollout? To be honest, I'm not really sure what kind of products really exist. I know that I think there's a perpetuals platform that you can actually use right now, but would love to hear any kind of stuff that's being developed right now from new developers in the ecosystem.
I think like for any type of new ecosystem, especially for something that's so unique like Injective, you always want to start at the base layer or the base layer primitive. So I think right now the main focus is building some innovations around the base layer lending infrastructure, and also a lot of focus around building different types of financial instruments surrounding derivatives, or establishing building blocks and rails to onboard a lot of different developers. It's really comprehensive in terms of what we're trying to focus on to build this and grow this ecosystem. But I think the primary common theme is being base layer and being this underlying primitive for a lot of surface level apps.
So Eric, what is it about Injective if I'm trying to build something? Let's say I'm trying to build like an options exchange. What is it about Injective, I guess, that would make it easier for me to build there as opposed to just spinning up my own chain in the Cosmos, in the world of Cosmos dApp chains?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences is that you can do that in like less than 10 minutes.
Oh, wow. What makes it so efficient?
Yeah, because I think there's just so much, existing knowledge share. There's just so much existing work done around rounding out the developer experience, trying to kind of establish an MVP of a exchange application on top of Injective that the user experience, or more specifically the developer experience for spinning up a new exchange application with different types of focus around a specific type of market, or launching your own type of derivatives market, that can all be done in a flash.
Interesting, and I know that we're starting to see that proof in the pudding. Just for the phrase, we're actually seeing Helix. Today's volumes right now are up to 200%, just alone on Helix. It's actually kind of insane to be watching that happen. Do you think this is people realizing the better UX and the better user experience on Helix, or is it more about the hard infrastructure? I would just love to hear your thinking about why we're actually starting to see a much bigger adoption for products like Helix in the market.
No, I think it all comes together because right now, like, there's a lot of issue around the failure of custodial and centralized platforms. People are kind of rushing to see self-sovereignty. People are rushing to see something that's truly decentralized, trustless, and transparent. So there's this general trend of all these centralized exchange traders, all these derivatives traders migrating to a decentralized alternative or decentralized venue. But one of the biggest issue around DeFi is that the exchange infrastructure is just extremely rigid. You don't even get to place a limit order in most of the places, or have any type of conditional logic. And I think this is really where Helix gets to shine, because it gives them this environment and this experience that's very much familiar to them, and they can do 99% of the things that they're used to on top of centralized platforms, and that kind of allows for this very, very natural transition, and thereby this very phenomenal growth.
That's super
Yeah.
cool.
As I'm looking at Helix, and I agree with you, Eric. It did seem like well, especially with FTX, right? We've seen sort of hopefully the one of the final migrations away from these centralized platforms, where people will give up their keys. And a lot of times, even as someone who I'd consider myself kind of like a Web3 native, a lot of times I think the issue is you go on a platform that has perps trading, and it's easy to leverage, and it's like, oh well, I'll just make a deposit, do my trades, and then pull it off or whatever. But for whatever reason, it's like the convenience and the user experience kind of makes you sort of go against your better judgment and give up custody of your assets. So I think as we start to see some of these platforms like Helix with the perps, as I'm looking at right now on the screen, as we start to see them start to develop better user experience and make it, it's like, why would you go to a platform like KuCoin, not to knock the guys at KuCoin, and give up custody, when now it's like you can do everything, totally non-custodial on a platform like Helix or some of the other, I guess, perpetual exchanges that are out there. So we're definitely seeing the market overall move in that direction. I'm curious, as I look at Helix. It says that I can connect with a MetaMask wallet. So is Injective, is it EVM compatible as well? I guess just to get into like higher level questions here.
Yeah, so currently Injective doesn't have its own EVM layer, but the overall infrastructure is very much catered to kind of like this multi-chain environment. It has a key derivation scheme that's the same as Ethereum. So this means that you can connect your MetaMask wallet. You don't need to switch network, and all this transactions on top of Injective can be passed from Ethereum through EIP 712. So this means that from a general user coming from Ethereum, it very much actually do feel like a centralized exchange, because you can go on Helix, you can deposit your ERC20 assets, and then from that point on, you're still using your MetaMask, you're still signing from the same wallet, you never really changed network, and you're just signing messages, doing the trades, and then you can withdraw it back. So Helix is kind of like this application that's meant to design so that it can be used to cater for any type of ecosystem users without kind of forcing them into a mental barrier or this hoop of switching to a completely new chain, completely new ecosystem, completely new L1, and feeling like they've betrayed their source chain.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't seen that before. I know like some of the more popular ones out there, like GMX obviously is the one that everybody has top of mind. You have to switch to Arbitrum, you have to bridge your assets over. with Gaines Network. They were on Polygon, and now they're on Arbitrum. But it's still, you still have to bridge and move away from Ethereum, or just go through all these loopholes just to get your assets in the right denomination and the right network, and then you can start trading. I haven't seen an example before where you can use Kepler or MetaMask, and from what you just said, if I understand you correctly, I could just use native Cosmos assets or native ERC20 assets and just continue to trade on the same perps as everyone else.
Yeah, you basically, like all the bridging mechanism on top of Helix, there's a kind of like a canonical bridge for every single respective, chain or like an asset. So for any type of Cosmos-based asset, it's going through IBC, which is as secure as, the source and destination chain. For the Ethereum layer, it also has, various selections such as the injective native bridge, but also, wormhole integration. So there's also like a diversity of choices there as well. And then from the Helix level, it's obviously abstracted away. The bridge denomination is all kind of like abstracted away from the user, and whenever a user bridge it, it'll feel like it's a very very simple application rather than something convoluted and forcing the user to go through a certain like decision fatigue.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, that's actually kind of crazy for me, because it's very interesting to hear that you guys are going with a very agnostic approach to users like network. And one of the things that I've always been really frustrated with the current conditions of DeFi and just interacting with blockchains is that it feels like I'm a manual router. I feel like I have to select where I'm going. I have to think about where I'm heading to. I have to make sure that I'm using the right bridge address. I have to do a lot of stuff that I would imagine a router would experience. Are you guys rolling out this type of mentality product by product? Is this kind of the developer goal and the standard that you guys are seeing develop around other products just beyond Helix itself?
Yeah, certainly. I would say like different layers of the product has like kind of like a different design philosophy or kind of like a product decision. For example, Hub, Explorer, etc., are all generally extremely unopinionated, and it's not trying to kind of establish a canonical route or establish like a favorite on different asset. But for Helix case, it does, because that is what allows users to have the best possible experience.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
just to kind of echo Joseph's sentiment, like I know the experience of sometimes trying to bridge assets is like such a pain in the ass, because
Yeah.
you'll go on you'll go on Uniswap and you'll be like, all right, I'm gonna get some. I need DAI for this exchange, so let me go on Uniswap and swap into DAI, and then you have ERC20 DAI, and you go to the bridge, but you can only bridge like USDC into DAI on the target network, and then you got to go back to Uniswap and swap again. You're paying all these fees on every transaction. It's just a huge pain in the ass, and like you have to really be dedicated in order to get into that. So I think the more you can kind of obfuscate that, those kind of transactions away from the experience, like you said, Eric, the better. I know we're talking a lot about Helix here, but I just wanted to pick your brain, Eric. What are some of the other primitives that are currently built on top of Injective that you're excited about?
Yeah, I think there's just so much development going on. For example, Astroport recently, deployed on top of the testnet, coming out with mainnet very, very soon. This is probably going to be a very first instance in their next iteration of on-chain market making strategy being done directly to the order book. And then on top of that, there's a lot of existing work around options, lending protocol, and Frontrunner is also working on extremely amazing and exciting kind of application innovation, or to be more specific, application level innovation, where they're kind of turning the entire injective exchange infrastructure around on its head and building kind of like this sports betting prediction market utilizing binary options. So I think on like all the different verticals, there's always some talented and really really motivated team building something really cool.
That's awesome. And I know that you kind of going back to a little bit of the component of the self sovereignty and that self sovereignty control of being able to interact with all these primitives. I know that we had a chat earlier like last week when we interviewed you for the Flipside show. There was a nice little conversation about your experience with self sovereignty. I'd love to hear the story for the audience to understand kind of your background with Bitcoin mining and kind of your exposure to the industry. And one of my favorite things and components about your background background in the industry is that you like the fact that you're not here for the finance part. Essentially, the finance part is just a consequence of us taking sovereign control of our assets, and I find that really interesting and like the actual paradigm of thinking for Injective, because I think that's a different type of North Star that not many chains go for. Just would love to hear your background there, how you got into Bitcoin mining, and why that's such an important part of your background here in blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, like that really, really goes like all the way back. I think like the first time was what, like 14, like 13 or something like that. So basically, I was just playing around with a PC that I built for a while, and then basically didn't really make a lot of use out of it, given like the time and effort I spent into like building it, improving it, upgrading it, every once in a while. And then I just realized, like, because I knew about Bitcoin before, even before like that time, but that was the first time I realized, oh, like you can use your GPU power to like mine Bitcoin, and then in the beginning it was like decently profitable for like a teenager, but later on like because of the price of Bitcoin was so low back then, it became like extremely unprofitable, even like electricity and everything considered. Because I remember that was like kind of like the advent of ASICs taking over. And then like I actually mined Ethereum the second time around in college, taking advantage of some of the free electricity, and that was actually a much more like scaled up, infrastructure or like setup. And yeah, like certainly I have a lot of fun like doing mining here and there. But I think like the most interesting aspect was that I first heard about Bitcoin like back in the day when as a kid you just always discover like cool stuff on the internet like dark web, etc. And it was really interesting to me that like nothing felt like unique within the Web 2 or like within the web world. Um, and there's this concept of money that like can't be replicated, that has like a ledger that's provably secure, immutable, etc. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it, like as like a like 12-year-old or whatever, and that has fascinated me since like a young age. And later on, I learned more and more about it and all the technology behind it, and here we are.
Did you get in trouble for mining Ethereum? And I'm assuming you were doing this in your dorms. Like,
That
did
was
you
going to be
get
my
in
next
trouble?
question. Was going to be, did you run into any trouble doing that?
A little bit.
I
I
know in
can't
my
imagine
college
having.
dorm,
I think they have a rule now. I think like
is it
they
called the
have a
Eric Chen
policy
rule?
now.
The Eric
No,
Chen
no,
policy?
no. I think we got away with it all right. But like basically like after I dropped out, people started looking back, like seeing like all this popularity, and people started looking back on like all the outages in the floor in the dorms, and they realized, oh, like they're doing that. So I kind of
Yeah.
got away with it before they get to catch me.
They're like, man, this guy's got using a lot of power in that room. He must have like 6 microwaves plugged in or something. I
Going
remember
there all
back
the
in my
time.
day, we used to get in trouble for downloading like we would like torrent. We would use torrent sites, and I got in trouble once for that. So I wasn't quite as I wasn't making any money from it, but that
Yeah.
was what we got in trouble for.
My first exposure to gaming was torrenting video games. I torrented a lot of video games, and that was a nice experience.
In your college dorm?
Not in my specifically in my college dorm. I've never been able to get into mining, unfortunately. But when I was in college, I did use Bitcoin to purchase some articles of items that I had access to via the dark web, and Bitcoin
Ah,
was the currency to do such a thing. Statutes of limitations, like it's over, so I'm safe.
was it dynamite? Sticks of dynamite? Is that what you
No,
bought?
no, 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 no. NSA, please leave me alone. NSA, he's joking.
Um, yeah, Eric, just to, I guess, kind of follow up on your comment there, it is interesting, even like for myself personally, when you first hear about Bitcoin, at least in my mind, the first thing is like, how can that be worth anything? And you like, it's almost, and then I think so many people, they focus on, price action, and they focus on maybe like the technology side of it, but it is almost more, or just as much, if not more, a philosophical type question of like, how do you value money? What is currency? And not many people, I think, put much thought into it and unless they get into Web3, and then you start to like realize, oh, well, currencies actually predate like fiat and governments and regulatory issues and monetary policy and all this stuff. And I just think it's fascinating from a non-finance and a non technical perspective, but almost more of like like a philosophical stance on, how do you value currency? How do economies work outside of the government purview? So yeah, I just think that's like fascinating stuff. And I even today, I've been in the space full time now. I think I can say like 6 years. 2017 is when I really started getting into it, and I worked for a company that did ICOs back in the day, or didn't do ICOs, but organized them into like a calendar. And even back then, I feel like I didn't have as much of a grasp over the importance of Bitcoin and what it did. And it feels like I'm still learning. I'm still on a journey to like learn the importance of it. So yeah, I appreciate that insight, and it's cool that you were early to it. I don't really have a question. I'm just rambling at this point. So Joseph, if you have something to add, feel free.
No, I mean, I know that Eric has had that background, and that's kind of one of the things that really interested me from the interview. If anyone wants to watch that, it'll be airing on the Flipside YouTube channel next week. Was just your exposure to the self sovereign nature of the tech, and I know that you've had your own experiences and your own challenges based off of where you were located geographically, and I know that blockchain has that innate attraction for different parts of the world. I know I have family members or just friends who live in Latin America, and when they have that access to a different ledger and they have access to a different monetary system, it's a very powerful and profound option for them. And I know today we're like really worried about the Coinbase news that's coming out. I mean, we all knew that the U.S. regulators are talking about potentially targeting U.S. stakers, and Coinbase has virtually kind of like forced them to do that. I guess my question is for you, what kind of approach does Injective have in terms of global monetary policy? How do you guys feel about the concerns of regulatory weighing in? Is there anything? Basically, do you have any thoughts on what's going on that front?
Yeah, I think the network, like all blockchain should be, at the end of the day, is permissionless and decentralized and censorship resistant. So the failure or shutdown or censorship of a single entity or single actor will not really, meaningfully affect the network or the ecosystem or all the believers in it. And I think there's actually an extremely interesting point here, especially within DeFi, and it kind of goes back to the story that I talked about within the podcast. Is that ironically right now, most of the DeFi protocol, Helix included, blocks VPN and also US IP to make sure that there are no US users because of compliant reasons being able to access Helix the application. Obviously, like other exchange apps can take their own approach, but the majority of DeFi protocols and platforms have adopted that standard or that approach, which is ironic because back in the day, like a lot of the cool things that are happening within the internet world within Web2 was very much US only, and they couldn't expand to like new regions because of local jurisdiction and compliances. But now it's actually the inverse, where like all the non-US people get to like experiment, get to explore this wild wild west, and get to like take advantage of opportunities. Obviously, be careful, but the US is completely blocked by it. So I think this is such an interesting case.
Yeah, it's a shame in many ways, but I don't know. Hopefully, we'll see some reasonableness out of the U.S. government,
Yeah.
which they have an amazing track record. There's no blemishes on that track record at all. So I expect they'll do the right thing like they've always done throughout history. Curious, since we're kind of on topics like this, Eric. Sorry to take you on a million tangents here. What are your thoughts on Ethereum and the move to proof of stake overall?
No, I think it's exciting. It was like on the roadmap since like day one. Um, I mean, like what it's been like, it feels like it's almost been like 100 years, but like in reality, it's probably just like
Yeah.
7 years or something like that. But yeah, like this is probably one of the most anticipated events, and I mean, like I signed up for the ecosystem in the beginning because I know that there's eventually a pathway towards proof of stake. It's just relatively speaking, a more scalable design with various levels of trade-off. If we're talking about like decentralization in academia, but yeah, like I think like in terms of like practical use cases and the utility that Ethereum network addresses, it's naturally like the next evolution. And with sharding and all the cool stuff that are being worked on, I think it's only going to be more and more scalable and more useful.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on the whole Ethereum situation and moving over, and I think that right now we're going to be seeing an interesting time for the network, because I agree with you on principle that I think that it's important to have that mindset of proof of stake being important for like a chain to actually progress, and I agree with you. I think it's a major pivotal move, and that's a reason why you buy into the network of Ethereum. You believe in that process, and I think that we're going to be seeing a very interesting time period right now, especially with the Coinbase climate, because of that centralization worry and their control of the network. And I think it's an interesting time for that decentralized blockchain narrative to really start surging because of the fact that we're starting to see LSD tokens have started to really start ramping up in usage, because people are starting to realize that centralized entities are just being compromised because of their ties to nation states and regulatory bodies. I hope we see something like good come out of it, but long term, I think that the network is obviously just positioned for surviving regardless of how hard governments weigh in. And it will just keep going and actually producing blocks, and everything will be fine. Which I think is a great time to start seeing an actual chain that's starting to come with this approach in mind of decentralizing. And I think Injective is perfectly along that route. Excited to see the future there. I guess I don't have a question either. Evan, do you have any questions?
No, I guess just as like a parting note here, Eric, if there's anything that we didn't cover here, I know we kind of went off the rails and talked about some higher level stuff, but I don't mind doing that. But if there's anything specific to Injective that you wanted to talk about before we part ways here, the floor is yours.
I mean, it's the same old. Use Helix, try out the ecosystem, try out all the applications on top of Injective. Stay tuned. There are a couple of new launches, one of which is like extremely exciting as well. So, this is going to be a very, very interesting month, like every single month in the past, to be honest. But yeah.
Hey, you mentioned front runner earlier. Who do you like to win the Super Bowl?
Oh, man, I don't want to take sides.
No public stance? No public
I mean,
stance.
to be honest, I don't know enough about football to have like a really educated guess to begin with. But yeah.
Have you been to Philly or have you been to Kansas City? Like, have you been to any of these places?
I mean, I've been to Philly for sure. Kansas City, I mean, I don't think so, to be honest. But I know that is probably
Nobody
the more
has.
popular team.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just take the fact that you went to Philly as like as a tip of what you're supporting these days. So thank you for coming on, Eric. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. We appreciate it, man. Hey, just by the way, Joseph, you can buy Kansas City Chiefs right now for 62 cents, and you can buy the Philadelphia Eagles for 38 cents. So it looks like the front runner crowd is betting on the Chiefs. I wonder how it works. Do you just bet? It seems like it's like a predicted market, if you're familiar with that,
Yeah.
where you like bet on
Yeah.
like a president or whatever to win, and then
Yeah.
you buy and sell the token. So the front runners are predicting that the Kansas City Chiefs will win. Who do you like in the Super Bowl, Joseph?
I mean, I think the Eagles are going to come in really strong. I think the Eagles are. I know you're a fellow Pennsylvanian, and I know there's some animosity between the two
Other side of
cities.
the state. I mean, don't get
Yeah,
confused.
don't you guys hate each other though? I thought there was always a beef between Pittsburghians and Philliers. Is that
It's
true?
more of a hockey thing. But Pete once told me when one time I mentioned that there was a bit of a rivalry. Pete goes, people from Philly don't even think about Pittsburgh. And I went, wow, you bastard.
Very fair.
Hey, we had a comment that we didn't read during the thing, but it wasn't relevant, but I'd love to read it now. This is from Miro Morrow. Looking for the next scammer who runs away with trillions of dollars that are not his. Why not NFT? Have you ever heard of NFT? I've not heard of NFT, and I don't know a scammer that's gotten away with trillions of dollars. That's we're up to new heights. Although the U.S. government did charge, they had like income of like 4 billion or 4 trillion in income tax, and they spent a lot of it on like rockets for Raytheon and Boeing airplanes to kill people all over the world.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
that might be
Just
a scammer
casually,
that's run away with some money. Uh,
yeah.
anyway, that's a good segue into the flip side insight of the week. Joseph, you got it?
Yes, I do. Let me get up the tab. Gonna be sharing my screen. I don't have a specific insight to this week, but I do have just like kind of a focusing of what we've got cooking up over at Flipside. This week, we just rolled out our new actual front-facing app for the Flipside website. So if you guys are interested in checking this out, head on over to flipsidecrypto.xyz. I should have a banner ready for that, but unfortunately, I do not have a banner ready for that. But it's over at flipsidecrypto.xyz. We've rolled out our new front-facing app, and we've also rolled out our new app that actually lets you do your data analysis. It's a much more improved tool. It's a lot better. And as soon as you actually show up to the website, you can start looking and digging into the top trending data that's actually on our platform. As you can tell here, I mean, just from the look of it, it's much more beautiful than our original website. Evan, do you remember our original website? The first thing that it loaded up to you was like the bounty program, which is like is basically a marketplace where people can come answer analytics questions for blockchain analysis and get paid to do it. But this one, just you immediately just show up and you get fronted with all the trending insights on the market right now.
Yeah, this looks awesome. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at trending data dashboards that like Flipside analysts have put together.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at the top left corner, you're going to actually see who's the person that's actually developed these. Kellen is one of the team members over at Flipside. He's one of our top analysts, internal analysts. He actually was an analyst for the Jacksonville Jaguars at one point in time for his career. And now he is a crypto savant, and he is a really good analyst. He's really involved over in the Solana world. And he compiled this major dashboard, basically looking into the health of the network. And a lot of people find this very helpful, just being able to see how active the chain is, how much is being used. As you can see, true transactions per minute peak. You can tell that like per minute peak, the Solana chain is actually processing many more transactions. And he's gone through and done a lot of filters. If you're interested in digging into the actual code, you can just click into the chart and actually see what type of query he wrote to see what he did to actually prune the data. And you can see the hard data that got pulled and the actual chart that got developed. But that's kind of what we've got going on at Flipside. If you guys are interested in any kind of the leading dashboards or anything that's going on, you can check by project. If you're exclusively interested in Ethereum dashboards, you can pull those up. This is probably one of the most interesting ones that I haven't had a chance to dig into too recently, but it's essentially a smart trader due diligence checker. You have to log in, and I'm not logged in on my screen, but once you log in, you can update these parameters at the very top and change the dates. So you can actually see who's actively trading the best and seeing what tokens are being traded the best over a specific amount of time. You can insert the address and see how they're performing, how they're doing when they actually perform those on-chain swaps and do analysis of how good they've been
Wow,
over the
that's pretty
pricing.
cool.
Yeah,
So does
yeah.
it show which exchanges they're using, or like is it Uniswap, or is it everything on chain, or
It's
how does that work?
everything on chain. It's everything on chain. So if they're trading, it could be any decentralized exchange that's been on Ethereum. They're checking to see how accurate and how good their swaps have been, what their activities have been, and how profitable they actually have been over a certain span of time.
That's a pretty
Um,
powerful tool.
yeah, it's a really powerful tool, and you can literally access it for free. You can just pull it up in here, and let's say you wanted to actually modify the code. If you didn't like how deposit events or withdraw events were developed, you can just click into the code, and you can actually, by creating your free account, you can just log in and fork the code and modify it to your own desires and do whatever you want to it.
And
And
that
that's kind of
that can
what.
all be done right on Flipside's website right there. They've got their
Yep.
own IDE.
Yep, literally everything. If you guys actually wanted to see some of the stuff that I've been working on, granted, my analysis is very, very, very tiny compared to
I
most
bet it's
people.
about Canto. Oh no, it's Link.
Unfortunately, we do not have Canto data. Not yet. Where there may be some Canto data in the pipeline. I'm not sure what the data team's doing for priorities. But I know that there's some rumblings of potentially some Canto data. There was a time period where I was really interested in Link, just when it was like really low in the risk levels, and there was some really interesting buying activity happening on Link. So I did a brief little volume dive, and I wanted to look into what was going on a specific address who was accumulating major amounts of Link. As you see here, my queries are very, very, very basic. But
Very
even
simple.
with
Keep it simple.
yeah, keep it simple. And once I kept it simple, you can start seeing like what's going on with specific addresses. What's that like? What were the top addresses that bot linked at a specific time? And you can actually do this analysis. And my favorite thing and favorite component of the app is the fact that you can look into and see other people's code, despite you not being the one that actually did the data analysis. It actually really helps me with learning and being able to just extrapolate analysis that's already existed. But yeah, that's what we've got for the Flipside Insight of the Week. Definitely check out the new website at flipsidecrypto.xyz. And we have some active bounties over at Metrics DAO. If you guys aren't familiar, there are bounties, and the bounties programs is essentially where anyone from the internet, anywhere, can claim a question, and they can actually submit their dashboard for that analysis and then get paid in tokens for completing that analysis. And there's a whole review process. Metrics DAO has a very open system of being able to have graders and a grading system and a public feedback forum. And we're starting to really run a lot of bounties, and we have a celebratory bounty program that's being ran right now for the release and the launch of this new app. So if you're interested in getting paid for your data analysis, check out Metrics out right now.
Yeah, and even if you're not a data analyst, that dashboard is pretty cool. It spans a bunch of different ecosystems, it looks like, and you can see kind of what other people are looking into. Joseph, I sent you a tweet on Telegram. If you could bring that up and share your screen, I just have an interesting little narrative that's bubbling below the surface. I wanted to talk about really quick, and then we can part ways here. But bravo to Flipside for that. Basically, the overhaul of the website looks really good there. I'm gonna have to check that out and maybe perform some SQL queries of my own. Here we go. So this is interesting. A
Alrighty.
little birdie hit my
Oh, you
DMs
showed me
and
this.
told me about this. So you'll notice that the tweet isn't getting much activity. And it was just tweeted out. When was this tweeted out? What does it say?
February 4th. So
February 4th. So that
5
was
days
like
ago.
5 days ago or whatever. But
Yeah.
so there's a rumor circulating that this is relevant to the Miro Morrow. Maybe we do have the answer for Miro Morrow for the next $1 trillion.
Yeah, maybe
Hype.
we do.
Because if you remember the guys from Three Arrows Capital, Suju and Kyle Davies, they had caused basically a cascading event in crypto when it was both I think Lido and Luna had kind of crashed around the same time, and they had a bunch of loans out from Voyager and from other sources, and kind of just like fucked up the whole space.
Yeah, ruined all of our bags basically.
Yeah, I mean there was definitely a lot going on there.
Yeah,
But here's
that
the
was a
alpha.
crazy time,
So
dude.
there's a thesis, and who's the person tweeting this? Just so
It's
people
coming
can.
from Memo, 77 Pixel, small account. You follow them, nice. All praise to God. Nice account.
Yeah, so small account here, not a lot of activity on this tweet. Potential alpha. Here's my thesis on why I believe Suju and Kyle's new GTX exchange might already be built with a tradable token. Introducing open exchange. The name is subject to potentially change. Scroll down here, Joseph. And basically, what had happened was these guys were circulating a deck, and if you click on the picture there, they were circulating this deck, and the whole point of their exchange, and I think it's interesting, at least their theory on what they're going to do here is you've got all these exchanges that went, they're filing for bankruptcy, so they've got all these claims.
Mhm.
You've got Celsius, you've got Voyager, you've got FTX. There's however
Genesis.
many millions of dollars in claims, and as a claimant, you're sitting on this claim and you're hoping that once the lawyers get done with their bankruptcy song and dance, maybe you can potentially claim, I don't know, pennies on the dollar for how much you're owed, how much your deposit was worth. What they are proposing is that you can actually, on their exchange, which they jokingly call GTX, which is the letter after F, is you can come in and trade those claims. So you can deposit it as, you could deposit it and swap it for, whatever someone's willing to pay. You could actually deposit it as collateral and leverage trade and make it all back in one trade if you really wanted to. But they're basically providing liquidity for people's claims that otherwise you have to sit there and wait for the court systems to sort out. Now, I have no idea how that works. I haven't seen any proof that that's actually a thing that can happen. And
Mhm.
it seems like a kind of a far off, like endeavor. But
Yeah.
the interesting thing here is in their deck, they said they're partnering with Mark Lamb and Sudu Arumugam, who are the co-founders of a little-known exchange called CoinFlex from 2019 to present. And it was pretty much, just an exchange with no volume, no liquidity. It had its own coin that was trading at like 4 cents back in just as early or as late as January of this year. And then go ahead and just see you on one of the next tweets here, Joseph. I think he linked to a tweet from CoinFlex. Yeah, go to that one there. So a few days back, CoinFlex made an odd tweet informing their followers that if they were to subject to a rebranding, that their token Flex would still be the main native token used for fees and everything else. And click on the actual tweet itself. This is from
Interesting.
CoinFlex on January 17th. If we rebrand the CoinFlex.com exchange, FlexCoin will continue to be the fee-paying currency, native token, and centerpiece of the newly branded exchange. So basically, like the FTT token of whatever this new
Yeah.
Three Arrows Capital exchange where you can deposit your bankruptcy claims and get liquidity for them, and I don't know, degen yourself back into riches. So
This is
you can
crazy, dude.
stop the screen share. What do you think of that, Joseph? Isn't that it's interesting
Dude.
because so if you look at the price chart of Flex,
Let me pull
it
that
went
up.
from like 4 cents to like I don't know what it's at, like over $1, and it actually went up to like 250 at one point, very quickly, very rapidly. These guys, I think, tried to raise, and these guys, when I say these guys, I mean Three Arrows Capital. They raised 25 million, and it was confirmed that they were successful in that. And I think right around the time it was confirmed, if you look at the price chart on CoinFlex, it just rockets up. It's pulled back a little bit now, but it seems
All right.
like, when they came out with this deck, a lot of people were talking about it, but not many people have made the connection between Flex and this new Three Arrows Capital Exchange. And I see you're bringing up the chart now, Joseph.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's rare when you share me you shill a shit coin. So I find it really interesting that you're shilling a shit coin out here. I mean, this buying activity. I mean, this buying activity says there's definitely some rumors being spread, and people are
We'll
actually
zoom out on that.
speculating.
And again, I'm not. It's not financial advice, and yeah, I guess I am like
Obviously, yeah,
shilling a shit coin. But I think the narrative behind this is interesting because it hasn't quite taken root yet. If in fact the Flex token is what Three Arrows Capital is going to launch,
yeah.
and they come out with a claims liquidity market that actually works, I mean, do with that information what you will. But like, zoom out on the timeline there. Like, give it a month or whatever.
We'll go to the monthly chart.
Yeah. So if you go
This has
back to
been
like
live for a
early
while.
January, I mean, this was nothing. So someone knew about this, right? Somebody's accumulating.
Yeah, someone's been accumulating. That's super interesting. I mean, if my honest opinion is that those two individuals are just so insane, Kyle Davies and Suju. I just think that they're so crazy that it would not surprise me if they were doing this. And honestly, like I'm really concerned about like, dude, like aren't they? Isn't Suju like under the run? Like, isn't he? Aren't they like running? Like, aren't they trying to capture them because they owe some people like a lot of money? Like how are they still managing to get away and do this? Like if this is true, how are they getting away with this, dude? It's insane.
Yeah, I don't know. Crazy world, never a dull moment in the Web3 space. So
It
of
wouldn't
course,
surprise me.
not financial advice. Be careful what you buy. Don't buy anything if you feel like you're going to come into the YouTube comments and fucking cry to me.
Yeah.
In that case, don't buy anything. Just work a 9 to
Bro,
5.
if you're buying something that some guys on YouTube and Twitter are talking about on a live stream, that's like your own problem. I'm sorry. Like that's really
Right.
that's my take at that point. It's like, come on. We're people on YouTube. We're on the internet. Don't trust the internet.
Yeah.
I do want to shout out our number one fan, Ape Depto. Ape Depto is in the audience watching us. Thank you so much for joining us. Steph, can you bring that up? Brez, one Lord Doquan on Bytes. Evan, don't you have Doquan in your basement right now?
No, I actually don't know where Do went. He was partying with Steph in Miami, and then all of a sudden, all these rumors came out that he was in. Where was he in? Like fucking
Serbia.
Yeah.
There was an article that came out that some Korean officials went to Serbia to like search for him, like according to them. So
we'll see. Who
some
knows?
development.
Who knows where the man is? Maybe he's in Pyongyang in North Korea right now,
Oh,
chilling.
maybe he was a sleeper cell for the North Korean government. Maybe they rugged.
Yeah. But I
Maybe
know
they
that
traded.
whatever he's doing, he might be like fighting police with his left hand and coding with his right, because
Yeah.
he's. I mean, they're still pushing shit out. And do we have a show tomorrow?
Potentially hasn't been confirmed. We're not supposed to reveal. There's something. Abe Depto, this is related to your next comment. Any idea what TFL has been cooking up this week? There's something. There's something. We haven't been told directly what it is, but there's something that is being developed and being worked on. And depending on like the timeline and the development of it, we may have a show very soon. I will have confirmation by the end of the day if we will be having a show to reveal whatever it is that TFL is working on. It's very redacted. It's on a hush hush, low priority situation right now. So keep you guys posted on what's going on with TFL and what they're developing. And speaking of TFL developing stuff, did you see Jacob Gideon? Is the guy who we talked about last week? I forget his name.
Jacob Gadickian.
Jacob Gadickian basically went over like the TFL docs, and I think this is a full circle moment where he kind of I mean, you remember the time where he was like shitting on TFL, or he was just shitting on Terra and what was going on in Terra. Steph, if you pull up my screen right now, this is actually a really interesting tweet by him, kind of a full circle moment. He's basically went over the documents and the documentation for the CW20 token factory standard. It's basically a standard that allows for smart contracts to deploy tokens and to associate the addresses on the smart contract level. Some really technical nuances, but for some reason, devs in Cosmos didn't have this standard, or this standard did exist, but it was very convoluted on how to employ it and use it in Cosmwasm. This is actually existing now, and TFL has apparently developed a very good and very streamlined version of that. And Jacob Gadickian is saying, strongly suggest that the rest of the Cosmos match the standard of docs, or we just to collaborate more with Terra Money. So I am excited to see, finally, at long last, the sides are starting to merge a little bit. There's starting to be a little bit more of a blur in the lines, and actually starting to see a little bit more respect and just developer good feelings. Evan, do you have any thoughts about this?
I saw maybe it was a tweet from go to Chris Amani's Twitter. I saw him talking some shit lately.
Oh no,
you
Chris
could just do shit
Amani.
posting.
Live shit post investigation.
Ape Depto TV says Jacob Lil Dicky D Ding Ding Dick. I think it's Jacob Gadickian.
This is interesting. There's some. Oh, okay. I lashed out at the wrong people. The person was directed actually doesn't work at Osmosis. I'm sorry. I'm sure the guys at Osmosis have absolutely massive commitment to building a collaborative and competitive.
So wait a minute. This is a funny tweet. Go back to the original tweet. Yeah.
This
so
one?
he says Osmo, the tokenization of small. What is that grape? What is that thing called?
That's an eggplant.
Small eggplant energy, which means small dick energy. And then in his apology, go to the apology tweet again. He says, "Okay, I take this back. I lashed out at the wrong people. I'm sure the guys at Osmosis have absolutely massive." And then he waits until the next tweet to say commitment to building a collaborative and competitive ecosystem. So good job by Chris Amani there. And
what a save! What a save!
Yeah.
Clutch save there. I love the Twitter energy of this industry. It's you got to build in public. You got to build in public. Build in public with your egos, as I always say. So
yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it for today. How do we feel about the show? You got anything else you want to talk about, Jacob?
No, you called me Jacob. You just called me Jacob.
Or, I'm sorry, Joseph.
This
Jesus,
guy.
Sorry. Jacob, Joseph, John, Doe.
Yeah. I'm gonna start calling you Ethan, Edwin. Shout out to Edwin from the Orbital Command team. There's 2 E names in the former Terra community. Interesting.
There's also the guy who does the docs for TFL is also named Evan.
The guy Evan TFL. That guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Oh me. Wow. Yeah.
Who do you have in the Super Bowl, Joseph?
Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to come out really competitive.
I like the Chiefs. Should we make a friendly wager on this?
Oh, okay, I'm down. All right, we can do a Blumpkin DAO proposal or something like that. Can we do a Blumpkin DAO on chain vote, and then whoever wins the or like
On
whatever.
chain, do an on chain. Wow, I can't think of words today. Sometimes that happens
It's an
a
on
lot.
chain.
It happens a lot actually. On chain escrow. We need to on chain escrow the wager. What do you want to wager? What do you want to wager?
It's 10 Canto.
$10,000.
10 Canto, bro. I can't afford that. What after Terra? I can't afford that. No.
All right, 10 Canto. 10 Canto.
10 Canto. Yeah, that sounds better to me. 10
I'll
Canto.
have to go
Which,
buy some Canto because I don't own any, but I'll buy
yeah,
10
not financial
Canto.
advice, but that will be worth $10,000 one day.
Okay.
Not financial advice.
TFM's in the comments says Chiefs are programmed to win. Wow, should we up the
Oh,
bet to 20 Canto, 25
Chiefs are
Canto?
programmed. Is it in the code? It's in the code,
It's in the
man.
script. It's in the
It's in the
script.
script. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I do think that they're running scripts. They just pull off some insane plays. I just lose my mind every time I watch them play. I just rip my hair out. And I'm a Titans fan, so they beat the shit out of us. So I'm not a very big Chiefs fan.
Okay, so I got the Chiefs, you got the Eagles. The wager is 25 Canto now.
Oh, you're up in it. All right, 25 Canto. Let's do it.
All right, that's
25
it.
Canto.
Shake on it. Everybody saw it. It's on chain.
All right.
It's
All right.
been verified. All the validators have signed off on it. It's been pushed and it's live. And the bet is 25 Canto. I got the Chiefs. You got the Eagles. I'm actually at a disadvantage here. I shouldn't give you even odds on that because the Chiefs are getting a 1.5, I think. But that's all right. I'll be friendly to you because I know
Oh,
I'm gonna win
wow.
anyway.
Thank you, bud. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Very kind.
All right, sign us off, Joseph.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching. To be determined if we have a live stream tomorrow. There may be a surprise announcement later today that we're having a live stream with some team members from TFL with something that they're cooking up. Can't reveal what it is because they haven't even told us what it is. So we'll see what it is if the live stream happens. If not, we'll catch you guys next week for the weekly terabyte. I said terabytes. Oh no. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week for the next Cosmos Bytes live stream. Thank you so much for joining us.